This is Coach Jason Ballard, and I'm a business wingman. Over the years, I've learned a lot from working in our family construction business, serving as a senior officer in the United States Air Force, and running 12 different organizations around the world. Many people helped me get to where I am today, and it's my mission in life to serve as a personal wingman to others. That's what this podcast is all about, providing knowledge, tools, resources, and mentorship to help people soar to their highest altitude. And welcome back to the Soar Higher podcast. This is your host, Coach Jason Ballard. Really excited to be with you today. We've got an outstanding, awesome human being on the show today. And I'm just so excited to have him on the show. Today, we're going to be talking about adversity. You know, everybody in life faces adversity and good things and bad things in their lives, but really how we respond to adversity really deciphers and determines, where we go ultimately in life. And today we're going to be talking to a real life hero, military hero that has gone through all kinds of different types of adversity himself and along with his family, and how they overcome that. How do you thrive? How do you, get back on top when you go through tough times? This is a lesson we all can gain some really good, powerful value from. And so today we're talking with Brent Casey. Let me tell you about Brent. Brent's the CEO of a company called Valor Coins and Pins. They sell a lot of military related memorabilia, in addition to some other things, to folks all over the globe. Really cool, neat memorabilia types of things that can make your company stand out. He's also an Army veteran. He was combat medic in Operations Desert Storm and Desert Shield back in the first Gulf War in the early 90s. Has been through some amazing things, and we're going to hear some of those stories today. He's also the chairman of the board for the Woody Williams Foundation that supports Gold Star families around the world and supporting our veterans and their families. An amazing foundation. Woody Williams, as we will learn here in a few minutes, is a Medal of Honor recipient. It happens to be Brent Casey's grandfather. So welcome to the show, my friend, Brent Casey.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. I appreciate that. That's too kind, sir, of an introduction, but much appreciated nonetheless.
Thank you for your humility, Brent. You're an amazing human being, and we're just lucky to have you, and excited to learn more about you and all the great things that you're doing in this great world. And so, tell us a little bit about your journey. Like, how did you get started in the military, and how did it, kind of lead you to where we are today? Tell us a little bit about your story.
Sure. Well, adversity has certainly been a part of that, and overcoming that adversity. It certainly wasn't always easy. I started out, grew up in a town called Barbersville, West Virginia. Went to elementary, middle school, and high school in Barbersville. I was a member of the volunteer fire department as a junior. I remember I was 15 years old, and so started out serving pretty early, I guess you could say, and had my first job at delivering newspapers, as a lot of young guys my age started out. Moved way up to Dairy Queen. And I was actually at Dairy Queen when the blizzard came about. So that can kind of give you an idea how old I am. 55 now, but I remember when the blizzard came to the store, such a big deal. But and then I started college, started at Marshall University in Huntington, West Virginia. And I went for about a year and just quickly figured out I really need some more structure and discipline, and wasn't quite ready for college. So I joined the Army. I joined on the same day as my two best friends. One of them which went in the Army, the other in the Air Force.
Oh,
The one that went in
yeah.
the Air Force was the smartest of the three of us. I will admit that. But I wanted to be a medic, and I wanted to jump out of airplanes. I wanted to go to airborne school. And I went to talk to the Marine Corps first because my grandfather is a very well-known Marine, served on Iwo Jima, earned the Medal of Honor on Iwo Jima. And everybody said since that day I'm crazy that I did not go into the Marine Corps, and that may be partially true. But ended up in the Army, and went to the Gulf War, as you mentioned in the introduction, and served as a combat medic in Operation Desert Storm and Desert Shield. And as soon as I got home, I got out. That was a lot for me. Of course, combat is a lot for anybody,
Yeah.
as we know. And so in '91, I got out. I did not go back to West Virginia. My father lived in Louisville, Kentucky, where I now have been for 30 plus years. And so I had been to Louisville a number of times, and really liked Louisville. So ended up here when I got out of the Army. And so that took me to starting to find employment here in Kentucky. And I stayed in the medical field for a while. Started back to college, majored in nursing, decided I didn't want to do that, and thought I was going to major in PT, and decided I didn't want to be a physical therapist the rest of my life. And of course, in the meantime, I'm trying to adapt to getting back home. And I was married to my high school sweetheart, but didn't stay in school very long, and didn't stay married very long. The after effects really grabbed hold of me, and I dropped out of school. I was managing to hold employment and work, but I avoided everything that had to do with the military, including the VA, including the VFW and American Legion. Anything that had to do with the military, really, I just didn't want any part of, and I didn't really know why. At that time, looking back now, I fully understand why. But I went about 14 or 15 years down that path of trying to avoid and really trying to treat myself for PTS, not really knowing that I had PTS. But unfortunately, my idea of treatment was the bottom of the bottle and drugs. I got really bad into cocaine, and it really it just about killed me. I mean, I was able to maintain employment, like I said, but after 14 or 15 years, in the end, I ended up at the very bottom. I was alcoholic. I was strung out on drugs. I was homeless, jobless. And at the end, I didn't even have a car to live in. So just by the grace of God, my family, specifically my brother and my mother, and especially my grandfather, Woody Williams, came to Louisville and picked me up by the scruff of the neck and took me back to West Virginia. My grandfather had worked for the VA as a veterans service officer for 30 plus years. And of course, he had PTSD from the Marine Corps and Iwo Jima. So he knew, I think he later told me, he knew if he could get a hold of me and get me headed the right direction, he had been there and experienced some of the same things. He was bad to drink when he came home in 1945 and did that to 1962 before he finally saw the light and accepted the Lord and never took another drink, never smoked another cigarette, and he got his life headed the right direction. So he knew he knew the path. Thank God. And so they came and got me into the VA system. They're in Huntington, West Virginia. Ironically, that VA now is named the Woody Williams VA Medical Center. And I had the honor and privilege of requesting that through Senators Manchin and Senator Shelley Moore Capito. Of course, they never knew the story, why I wanted to do it. I just felt like it was appropriate and he deserved it. And so I petitioned to them to name it for him, and they did. Ironically, the VA that saved my life at one time. And I do credit the VA for saving my life. And God, certainly God had the upper hand in the whole situation the entire time. I didn't know that then, although Woody and my grandmother Ruby raised our family, and my mom and dad raised us to go to church and be Christians and be good faith Christians. And so I got into the VA system. I saw a psychiatrist. I didn't know he was a psychiatrist, the first doctor that I saw. And I did all the paperwork and stuff that they asked me to do. And he came back in and said, well, Brent, you flagged 19 out of 19 on your PTSD questionnaire. And I just looked at him like he was speaking Greek. I had never heard of PTSD. Didn't know what it was.
What the heck is that? Yeah.
And so this is about 20 years ago. And just to put things into perspective. So he said, don't worry about it. We've got the resources and the tools that you need here and for you, and we're going to get you headed back the right direction. And so off I went to try to get my life, back on the right path. Yeah.
Wow, Brent. First off, my goodness, thank you so much for your service and your dedication to our nation, especially during a time of war. It's easier to serve in peacetime, here in the United States, but it's another thing to go overseas in combat zones and serve, and be witness to many of the atrocities that war brings to people. And for some of the folks out there that maybe listen to this podcast, PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. Back in the days of World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and even into the first Gulf War, people don't really talk about. There was no really true diagnosis, right? They didn't really talk about it like they do today. I think the most recent wars in Iraq and Afghanistan have brought out some of the mental health components and even into the commercial sector, with some of the shootings and some of the things that we see in our society today, about stress in the workforce and about going through things that cause stress to where it becomes a disorder and people struggle to deal with how to deal with those things, right? And so, I commend you, Brent, for your courage and strength to deal with that, recognize that, and engage that. That takes a tremendous amount of courage. Even coming from an Air Force guy, I've seen this firsthand. I've witnessed this firsthand, and I've experienced this firsthand. Maybe not in the same ways that you did. We all have our different experiences, but it's real. It's out there, and most people really truly don't think about it or understand the
Sure.
things that military people, EMS workers, police, and firefighters, the things that those types of people go through, the things that they experience and see every day
Right.
is atrocious, and we just take it for granted. And then, so I'm inspired by your courage to
Yeah.
openly talk about that and be an inspiration to others.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Jason. Really do. Yeah, once the VA got me headed back the right direction, the VA, they had a program. I believe they still have it, and it's a 6-week residential inpatient PTSD program and rehabilitation program. And so once you are clean and sober, they'll allow you into this 6-week program, and it's really just to educate you about PTSD. And
Yeah.
once I got into that program and realized, there's 14 other guys sitting around the table with me who also are dealing with the same issues, and got an opportunity to know what it is, learn what it is, learn what causes it, and learn some healthy coping skills. um, I, I was able to, sort of figure it out, at least
Yeah.
understand it, know what it is, um, and the best way to move forward, from that point. But along with that came, some compensation. The VA started to they gave me some disability compensation for the PTS. Um, Unfortunately, I was also diagnosed with fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome, irritable
Mm.
bowel syndrome, some other stuff from being exposed to the depleted uranium and the sarin gas. Um, but to me, I live with that every day. The fibromyalgia, not near as bad as the PTSD was.
Yeah.
I can deal with it on a daily basis. Just
Right.
just the best that I can. So, but
Yeah.
Voc Rehab has, they've got a program with vocational rehab, and so I got into that Voc Rehab program, and you know,
That's awesome, man. And so good on you for taking the help. I know so many veterans out there that don't take the help. They're just
yeah,
proud. They don't feel like they have an issue. They don't want to really be honest with themselves. For whatever reason, they do just choose to avoid or deflect or, make excuses. There's help out there in a
oh,
lot of different places for people. I remember growing up, I was a little kid, about 4 or 5 years old, and my grandfather fought in World War II. He was a gunner on a bomber, and he was part of the island hopping in the Pacific, where they'd go island to island and clear them and take over the islands and continue to move into the mainland of the Pacific and into World War II. And some of the things that most of the things he went through was just stuff that was just crazy stuff you never even would think would happen. There was a story one time where there was they were on a secret mission, a classified mission in the bombers, and they had some fighters escorting them. They were going to a secret location. It was all hush hush under the cloak of darkness kind of stuff. And there was an issue with one of the bombers. I had like some mechanical issues, and they were right at the verge of compromising the mission
wow,
for everybody involved and for the success of that mission and the bombing of the targets he needed to bomb. And he was ordered, because of the situation with that plane and not functioning correctly. They were having problems guiding it and steering the plane, and they were losing control of over it. And he was ordered to shoot the plane down at that location before it compromised the entire mission,
wow,
and he did it.
That's incredible.
Now, he came back. They did some island hopping, and I've seen black and white photos. I've got them in kind of a special place here in my back of my office here, where were holding. They were like in New Guinea, and they were holding the severed heads of the enemy. They were in some just tough hand to hand combat, life and death. Somebody's dying, you or me, right? And he came back from that broken. He was
Sure.
not the same guy. He was a drunk. He couldn't hold a job
Mhm.
and just mentally broken.
Sure.
He was abusive. He was in a bad shape. He did go to the VA. He did get some help. He eventually, a few years later, developed cancer. It was pretty aggressive. Ended up dying, when I was a young man, uh, due to the cancer and the aggressiveness of that cancer. And, he was exposed to a lot of toxic things like you were, Brent. Did they ever figure out the source of the PTSD? Was it, your combat medic role when you were in the, working on people and kind of the gore and the guts of those things, or did they ever kind of trigger that or pinpoint
No,
that?
no, it definitely was not that. And I think it was just the opposite. Unfortunately, there was nothing left to treat. Of course, you treat the enemy as well in
Right.
theory. Um, we didn't really take any casualties in my group. We took casualties in the Gulf War, unbeknownst to that, a fact that many don't know, um, but not in my unit. And those that we were, by the time we got to the Highway of Death, I was in a tank unit. The tanks that, of course, we were taking out the T-72 tanks as we went along, tracking to the Highway of Death. And if a tank's hit, there's nothing left in that tank. It's burning on fire by the time
Yeah.
we get up to it, and we just roll on past it. And by the time we got to the Highway of Death, everything on the Highway of Death was just destroyed. The bodies were burnt in place behind the steering wheel. Some of them would obviously had escaped the vehicles that they were in and ran. Some of them got 10 feet. Some of them got 50 feet. But ultimately, they were burnt to a crisp. There was nothing left by the time we got there. And
Wow.
so I think that's what it's from.
Right. I gotcha.
Yeah, and this latest October 7th, 2023 incident in Israel, I'm a news junkie, and I watched too much of that, unfortunately, and I saw some of that where they had been burned, and that was on, it was on the web, World Wide
Oh
Web,
yeah.
and I made the mistake of looking at it, and I'm back at my clinic talking to a therapist uh, in November and December, and then come this month and next month. So that's what it was, because that again triggered me from October 7th,
Yep.
um, and I knew I need to go talk
The
to somebody and
scars
sort
are
it.
always there, and things can you
Sure.
know, trigger some things in your mind, your emotions. I remember being back from I had deployed 5 different times over to the Middle East, in my time in the military for various stints in Iraq and Afghanistan, all these different places. And the one particular time in Iraq, you've got the Irish highway there, right? At that time, it was the deadliest highway in the world, right? I mean, there's a lot of terrorists and bad folks that do bad things on that road. And I remember coming back. I didn't really think about it. I remember coming back. It was a few months later. driving down the road with my family, and I would kept leaning towards the center lane. We were driving through like a neighborhood, driving through some of the main roads of the city I lived in, and just at different times, I just would kind of coast over towards the center line. I'd go around things and just kind of drive in an erratic manner. My wife's like, "What are you doing? You're going to get us killed. Are you paying attention? Like what?" And she kind of gets on to me. I didn't really, I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. I'm just trying to avoid the can in the road, or and in what it
Yeah.
was me avoiding the potential hazards on the side of the road because the terrorists would
Mhm.
pack bombs into the side of the curb. If they pack bombs into dead animals laying on the side. Like they did all these sneaky, crazy things to camouflage and hide these roadside bombs, and you're super sensitive to those things. So if you see anything weird or unusual, your reflexes are to move away from that, to deflect from that, right? And
Yeah.
I did it took me a few minutes to figure that out. More than a few minutes, actually, a few weeks because I kept doing it. And my wife's like,
Mhm.
"Do I need to start driving? And I'm like, "No, this is." It clicked. I was talking to a friend of mine who was in the military. He's like, "Yeah, dude, you're diverting back to those tactics."
Mhm.
Crap, I didn't even think about that, right? Why? It's survival, you
Subconscious.
know? It's subconscious. And, the mind plays some just really, when you're placed in, potentially life or death situations, your mind plays games with you sometimes. And sometimes it's nice and sometimes it's not nice.
Sure.
And but I think
Yep.
that's true in a lot of different things in life, right? The world that we live in now is much different than 20 years ago, right, Brent? Where the sensitivities are different, the violence is different, the political, polarization is just like people are just stressed
Mhm. Sure.
everywhere in life these days. And I think, your testimony here is really, I think, going to be helpful for people to understand different things and triggers that can affect them and sometimes in a negative way. So Brent, when did you realize you really had a problem that was out of control? Like when did you like, okay, today's the day. I can't do this anymore. What happened there?
Well, I really couldn't go any further. I didn't have any resources left to go any further. And I remember my brother calling me, and he had called the apartment complex that I was living in right at the end before I got evicted from there. And I had not been to the mailbox in over 2 months. They were collecting my mail. They'd leave notes on my door, but I was just in such a dark place in my mind, and preoccupied with drinking and drug abuse. Uh, that was really the end, and I didn't have anywhere else to go. Once I got evicted and my car got repoed at the same time, and I lost my job. Of course, my brother, my family knew, that those things were closing in on me very quickly. Uh, I'm not sure how they found out some of the things they found out, but um, they were they were here within days afterwards. So I wasn't on the so that I wasn't going to be on the street. Otherwise, it
So
would have
this is
been.
like an intervention from your family. They're like, okay, it's time to grab him and pull him out of the water because he's about to drown here.
It was salvation. I mean, they saved me. They came and got me, and they
Yeah.
they saved me and got me back to Huntington. Once I got into the VA system, and like I said, I went through the 6 week residential PTSD rehabilitation program. Uh, I got got vocational rehab, and so I started back to school, and I got my bachelor's degree in business, and I was thriving. I loved it. Had a 4.0, and so I stayed and got a master's, got my MBA, and graduated summa cum laude, and just loved it. Really, I could just see life. Finally.
Had
The
some
other thing
hope.
was,
Yeah.
and some hope, yeah. But the other thing I thought during that whole time was, if my grandfather, who was a flamethrower on Iwo Jima and went through some of the same hell that you're like the men like your grandfather, if they could do it, he could do it. Then that gave me hope too, because he told me, he shared with me that he had a very difficult time when he came home. Fortunately, he went right to work for the VA. So he had that part, but still that wasn't enough. It wasn't until 1962, Easter Sunday, my mom and my aunt, who were little girls at that time, convinced him for the first time to go to church with them. And they were all dressed up on Easter Sunday, and his testimony is fantastic too. But he went to church that day, and the preacher started talking about how Jesus sacrificed his life for us. And Woody immediately went back to Iwo Jima in his mind, and 2 Marines sacrificed their lives for him. So he was being covered by 4 Marines when he used the flamethrower that day, February 23rd, 1945. The same day the flag went up was the day that he did his action and earned the Medal of Honor. So, but that really hit him. With those thinking about those 2 Marines that sacrificed their life, and he went up in front of the pulpit, and the preacher looked down at him and said, "Is there something I can help you with?" Because it was mid sermon. And
Wow.
Woody looked up at him. He said he was about 6'6", the preacher, and said, "Will you just pray with me and pray for me?" And so the preacher stopped mid-sermon and came and prayed with him. And when he walked out of that church, Easter 1962, he never, like I said before, he never took another drink, never smoked another cigarette, was 3 packs a day at that time.
Wow.
And went on to become a Sunday school teacher and a lay minister and the chaplain for the Congressional Medal of Honor Society for 35 years.
Wow.
Just completely changed his life. And so I was learning these things too as I was going down my path. And so that was obviously, certainly inspiration and for me, and gave me a lot of hope.
Wow, I would say what a story, and what an example he was to have the strength and the courage to do those things, and to push forward. I mean, life. There's a lot of things in life, a lot of paths you can take, and the courage to move forward, just to keep putting another foot in front of the next foot, one day after the next. Um, incredible, incredible. So when did you feel like you were on the downside of this? When did you start feeling like, what was going on with you? What point did you're like, I got this. Like, I've got a future, and I've got opportunities, and I'm better.
I think really it was probably during the time that I had gone back to school, and was doing so well in school. And I'm like, I'm a halfway smart guy, and if I can keep this PTSD under control and keep putting one foot in front of the other. The other thing too was I had the most incredible privilege of having Woody as my mentor, to help lead me down the right path. And so I got very close to my grandfather. We became really best friends through all of this, because we had so much in common. There are five of us grandsons, but I happen to be the oldest, and I happen to be the only one that served in the military. And then to go through this part of my life and know that he really had a big hand in saving my life and helping me get back on the right track. I just started spending more time with him, and he spoke around the country. He was a very, very good speaker, and he traveled 220, 230 days a year from the time he was 80 to the time he was 98. And so I had the role of keeping his schedule for him and booking his events. And so I kind of took on that role to be able to stay as close to him as I could. And I did, was able to travel with him some and get him where he needed to go. But that was probably the most helpful thing to me, was to have him by my side and be able to help him do what he needed to do too. It was really the perfect scenario for both of us.
Two people related, went through the same types of things, and one, your grandfather was a little farther down the road than you were at the time, was an inspiration to you. And it sounds like I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but like you found a new purpose. Sometimes when people get stressed and overwhelmed, they get, kind of can't see the forest through the trees sometimes, right? They get lost in life and they need purpose, right? And you got this new purpose, right? Because for folks that may not know, Woody Williams is a national hero in America, Medal of Honor winner in World War II, as Brent's been talking about. But you guys set up a foundation for him. He went around and spoke to people, to different conferences, different businesses and groups. Talk a little bit about that. Why'd you create the foundation and get out there and talk to people and do the things you guys did? Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, it sort of happened by accident. Really, Woody and I we were traveling from or to somewhere, and I do remember it was a speaking engagement, and he had gotten an honorarium, and a church. He spoke at a church because he got a love offering, and he had both of those with him. So we were probably on the way home at that point. And I said, Papaw, you've got $3,500 in your pocket. I know you don't need it. This is, let me see, I'm trying to think what year. This was 2012, in 2012. And I said, why don't we take those funds, those monies, and do something with them? Let's do something that we can make a difference. And like most things, when you have a great idea, he said, go do it. So my brother has a law background, and so I called Brian and said, "Hey, I got this idea," and Papaw he's going along with it. He's giving the thumbs up on it. I need you to help me get a 501c3 established. And at that time, we didn't know what we were going to
right?
do. A nonprofit.
501, that's a nonprofit, right? Okay.
501c3 nonprofit. And at that time, we didn't know what we were going to do. We had no idea. So I said, you have to name it something. And I said, well, name it the Herschel Woody Williams Medal of Honor Education Foundation, because he wanted it to be educational. That was his only requirement. He didn't. I don't care what we do. You figure that out. You develop a board of directors. You develop a website and content, and tell me what I need to do and where we need to go. And so my brother helped me get the 501c3. And at the same time, Woody was working on a project in the State Veterans Cemetery in West Virginia. And he had come up with an idea that Gold Star families have never really been honored and recognized in our country. And it's just something that we really failed to do as a society. We recognized Gold Star mothers, for a while after World War II, and we did a fairly decent job at that. We came up with a Gold Star banner that hung in the window. After the Blue Star banners, the Blue Star banners, you have a blue star in your window if you have a loved one that's serving in the military. If that loved one is killed, they would sew a gold star over the blue star, and that banner became a gold star, and the mother became a gold star mother, recognized as a gold star mother. Well, Woody felt like, and he had several things that happened to him personally that the whole family suffers. The whole family really should be recognized, because there's brothers and there's dads, for one, gold star fathers, aunts and uncles, and there's a whole family around that loved one who sacrifices their life in the military. And so he designed a Gold Star Families Memorial Monument on paper with an architect. And he said, I'm gonna snail mail it to you, and you let me know what you think. And so this is in the middle of us trying to figure out what we're going to do with this nonprofit. And I remember getting it in the mail, and I opened it, and the note said, "Call me when you get this, when you open this." So I called him, and I'm looking at this beautiful monument that's sketched out. It's a 4-panel monument, black granite, just beautiful. And it says Gold Star Families Monument, a tribute to those who sacrificed a loved one, something to that effect. And so I said, well, while I've got you on here, let's just get on surely this has been done. Sorry about that. Surely this has been done already. And we're behind the 8 ball. And I Googled it, and I said, Papa, you're not going to believe this. There is no such thing as a Gold Star Families Memorial Monument. This is the first. This will be the first in the nation. And so there it was. We just felt like God just put it in our lap.
Meant to be.
That's how it all started. We just decided, we'll start educating folks about this memorial, which is in Dunbar, West Virginia, in the State Veterans West Virginia State Veterans Cemetery, and we'll educate folks about that, and maybe work on some scholarships for Gold Star children and that sort of thing. And it just blew up. It just took off.
Wow!
In 10 years now, we have 133 of those Gold Star family monuments in all 50 states. Many in several states, obviously.
Yeah.
Guam, Hawaii, Alaska, they are all now represented with a Gold Star Families Memorial Monument. We just placed one at the World War II Museum in New Orleans.
Wow.
Just placed one at Miramar National Cemetery in San Diego. I was just witnessed both of those, and it just blew up. So from that point, he made a commitment. I want to be at every groundbreaking and every dedication. And then it got to the point at the end. Of course, he was 90. He was creeping on 90 at that point, and he passed away a year and a half ago at 98.
Wow!
But he had attended over 100 of those dedications by that point, and including the one in Hawaii, many in California, and just all across the country. And he would speak at every one of them, and it was a very emotional thing for him. He he loved to recognize these families who have sacrificed so much for his freedom and our freedom, and the lives that we enjoy every day. And somebody paid a price for that, and he felt like these families, they deserve to be recognized. And so that's what we've been doing with the Woody Williams Foundation.
Wow. That is so critical and such a needed thing, because we've got the nice big national monuments in Washington, D.C. and a few other places, right? New Orleans, et cetera, for World War II. But that all focuses on the military member, right? The troop, the soldier, the airman, the Marine, et cetera. And the life of a military person and their sacrifices and what they go through in combat, and rightfully so, right? I mean, that is not an easy lifestyle to live. It's not a career, it's not a job, it's a life, it's a lifestyle. And the things they go through, the sacrifices they make are, in many cases, just unbelievable.
Mhm.
However,
Yeah.
what's not talked about, what's not celebrated until now with your program is that of the family members that support them, that are there taking care of the kids and doing all the things. When I was gone 6, 8 months to a year at a time, numerous times in combat zones, my wife, like all the other spouses out there, they had all the kids to themselves. She worked a full-time job, took care of the kids, the dogs, the bill paying, the maintenance on the house, the lawn mowing, like everything is on them. And then if they get injured, if the military member gets injured or wounded or, God forbid, killed,
Mhm.
now there's that impact.
Right. Yep.
And we in this country, I think we take it for granted, and these military families are really the unsung heroes in the story.
Mhm.
They really are. The sacrifices they make, the scars that these kids have when their parents are gone or never come back, you
Yeah.
can never replace that. They are
Right.
traumatized by these events every day.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
There is like, it's like the US government has a brand that brands these things into their skin, into their minds, that will be with them forever.
Yeah.
And you just don't understand until now.
Yeah.
And so the Woody Williams Foundation is phenomenal because it puts the emphasis on the unsung heroes, the backbone of the country who really supports the things that we're able to do as a military and be the strongest military in the world. Very powerful.
Absolutely.
So,
The Yeah. Go ahead.
so talk to us a little bit about your business.
Sure.
What is this business about? What are you providing, and how does that all connect to the Woody Williams Foundation of your World War II Medal of Honor decorated grandfather that's supporting these families?
Well, it's sort of Valor Coins and Pins, as you mentioned at the beginning introduction. It sort of started by accident as well. I've always had a fascination with military challenge coins. My grandfather has had his personal coin probably for about 15 years, and it was pretty highly sought after. So a lot of individuals would present him a coin, sort of hoping that they might get one in return. And so he had thousands of coins. And eventually, I guess probably 10 years ago, he started just giving them to me because he knew I loved collecting them, and I would display them. And and I was responsible as the CEO and president of the Woody Williams Foundation. I was responsible for getting his challenge coins ordered. We had lapel pins that were in the
Mm.
shape of the Gold Star family's memorial monument, and we were ordering those pins by the thousands, and we
Mm.
were ordering the challenge coins by the hundreds, and I was paying a third party to do that. And one day I thought, I called my brother. He's got several businesses and very more business minded than I am. And I said, Brian, if we just started a company and we could go directly to the factory to buy his coins and our pins, it would save us about $2,500 a year. And so that's how it started. We started a business in Ohio with the Secretary of State there in Ohio, and sort of like the monument, once that word got out that we were making coins and pins, we agreed to make them for a few people, and we would donate proceeds back to the Woody Williams Foundation. It was a win-win. It was more work, but I thought, well, we can do it. We can, I can do a few of these orders, maybe a few a week, and donate the proceeds back to the foundation. We're saving money on them in the first place, and we're able to give back to the foundation. So about 6 years ago, we started Valor Coins and Pins, and started donating proceeds back to the foundation. As a matter of fact, I was with our new CEO and president, Dr. Mark Harris, this past weekend in Washington, D.C. We were honoring Vietnam veterans and Gold Star families of Vietnam veterans. And I presented another $250 check from Valor Coins and Pins back to the Woody Williams Foundation. So it's been a great way for us to give back. It's been a little bit of work to do it. I never knew I could design a challenge coin, but now after 6 years, I've gotten pretty good at it. But we've got some pretty good artists too that do the bulk of that work.
Yep.
Getting the proof together, and so I'm just sending basically proofs back and forth between our factory artists and our clients. But really enjoy doing it. I love the artistic side of it, and being able to be creative, on my own. Never had that opportunity before, so it's been great. It's been a win-win for us and the Woody Williams Foundation.
Well, I can personally attest to the work you do and how you do it. Being a military guy myself, military challenge coins are in pretty much every unit across, all branches of service. And I've collected, several hundred. Some of them are behind me on display. Some are not. I don't know if I have enough space to display them all, but I have a couple hundred of them at least. And for my own business and for the own podcast, the Soar Hire business, and the podcast that we're on right now, I created through you and your team and all the great things that you're doing, the Soar first ever. Just got them a few weeks ago. First ever Soar Hire coins, right? And Brent's team did a great job. They're very unique, very customized, and it turned out spectacular. I really like them. They're top notch. So if you're out there and you're looking, whether you're, connected to the military or not, even companies do this. I've seen Budweiser and other types of companies have coins, have kind of, colorful tokens that they hand out as, awards or, part of cohesion and bringing people together. And everybody's got a coin that represents the company and the values and all those kind of things. So it's really cool. The lapel pins are really cool. I've got to get some of those on order as well. But you do a phenomenal job there. And again, all this stuff connects back to your, grandfather's foundation that helps, military families where those needs are a lot greater than most people really imagine. And so hats off to you, man. And what a great testimony for you. Thanks for being here on the show. Thanks for being just a hell of a guy, a patriot, a servant of the country and just people in general. Thanks for being an example of how you can go through life, face different types of things, fight through it, battle through it, and still come out the other side, right? There's always opportunity. There's always hope. There's always people out there that will help you. You just have to ask. And so as we close today, Brent, what are the top couple things you want people to know and remember the most as we, talk about your testimony and your grandfather's life as well?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is my grandfather and your grandfather. and those like them who sacrificed so much back in World War II, and then came home and built this country. It's we can never live up to what they did and what they sacrificed and what they did to build this country. Hopefully, we can preserve it. That's the one thing that comes to mind for me first. Second, I would say for those struggling with PTS or PTSD, it's not always from the military. You may have it from the civilian side, or traumatic incident that you faced or were part of, and not even know it. But maybe give that a second thought, and perhaps you do, and perhaps you should get some help. There's plenty of help out there, and I would encourage you to talk to somebody, talk to a friend, talk to a family member, talk to a professional. There is plenty of help out there. Speaking from experience, as far as the VA is concerned, the VA gets a bad rap, but the Veterans Administration saved my life ultimately. Of course, like I mentioned, God had a hand in that. So did my family. But the VA did do their part, and I have a lot of confidence in the VA. If you're a veteran, just go talk to them. Just go see what they are all about and what they have to offer you if you are a veteran. Yeah. I really appreciate the time, Jason. This is really appreciate the opportunity to know you and befriend you and be able to talk on the podcast today.
Well, thank you so much, Brent, for again, living the life that you lived and making the best out of the conditions that you faced and turning things around and staying focused on the future. Even when things looked bleak, you still found a way to make it. And I think you're a wonderful testimony for many, many people. There's a lot of people in pain, a lot of people that are struggling out there, a lot of people go through, some tough things, loss of a child, to a loss of a job, to car wrecks and injuries and bodily harm, to, things that are maybe on the mental side. Regardless of what you're going through, there's help. There's people that care about you. There's hope. There's always hope. You can make a change. You can decide today to be different. Tomorrow can be a different day for you, a different life for you if you decide to do it. And so thank you so much for all the things you've done, your service, to your story, to the Woody Williams Foundation and supporting those folks. Brett, we're going to take, for the sake of time, we're going to take all of your contact information, put it in the show notes. If people want to reach out, they want to give, they want to contribute to the Woody Williams Foundation, if they want to, connect with you on the coins and the pins in your business of buying the things that you have for sale, if they just want to connect with you and ask you some questions or get to know you and your story, we're going to put all your contact information in the show notes so people can reach out and connect and go from there. So thank you so much. That's it for today's show, everybody. Hopefully you got an inspiration, got some inspiration out of this. Next week, we're going to be talking about the art of finding, acquiring, and scaling a business in an ultra competitive landscape. It's crazy out there. There's a lot of stuff going on, and it's very competitive. We're going to learn how to navigate that and move your business forward, just like Brent has moved many of these things forward in his life. We're going to continue to share how to do that and help you be more successful. So that's it for today's show. Have a great week, everybody.